And welcome in. Started again. Welcome into another episode of the Wash Up Walk-Ons podcast, brought to you by FanDuel, as we have been all season long. Tonight, as you can see, it's just me. Last night, tried to do this episode. 2 nights ago, tried to push this episode. Been traveling, holiday season. Lots going on this time of year. Appreciative that all you guys are joining us either live or could be on the back end. Could be driving to a Christmas, driving to family, traveling. Hope you're having a great holiday season. You're being safe. And again, we're thankful that the walk-ons are who you turn to, at least somewhat, for your entertainment and to pass the time. Again, I don't know. This could be an hour-long episode. It could be 30 minutes. We were just with some family before we came here. Had a rough little travel home, for those parents in the audience listening, push their nap times a little bit too far. Played with the line of no return. They fell asleep right before we got home in the car. Then you have to wake them up. Transfer didn't go well. Couldn't carry them. They woke up, both bawling. Daughter might be watching right now because sometimes when she needs calm down, she gets to watch Daddy work. So hi, Kinley, if you're watching. Shout out to my wife, Saint, doing bedtime. Baby boy went down, but sometimes the 3-year-old gets to be a lot. I would push this another night, but we simply can't. We have to do this episode. So tonight, there's a lot to talk about. I was really hoping to talk about that with Grant and Kevin. I don't know where Kevin is. Last night, he was unavailable. He said, yes, definitely, let's push it to tomorrow. I said 7:30. Everyone was like, cool. Grant, I think, is traveling home for the holidays. No response from Kev. I assume he got another trauma call, so you get the solo Klub episode. So we'll talk about a few of the things, and then maybe we'll just get Kevin and Grant's thoughts on some of the big happenings, a little Cliff Notes version instead of a longer form discussion next week when we preview the Iowa Bowl game that happens in 8 days from the time of recording this. In 8 days from now, the Iowa football season of 2025 will be over, and they will either have a 9th win to tally up on the record or what will it be, an 11th or 12th or 13th straight loss to a ranked team. Another opportunity to break that streak in the bowl game next Wednesday on New Year's Eve down in Tampa against Vanderbilt. And we're going to preview that game, assuming people show up to the show. I don't know. And I'm not faulting them either, right? This is a very end of the year hodgepodge. I'm the one who keeps this show going anyway. If I have to do the solo shows, we do it. But the goal is to record those next Sunday to have out Monday, 2 days before Iowa's bowl game. Some of the big news that we'll talk about tonight. LeVar Woods announced last Thursday. I guess KF announced last Thursday, and then LeVar took to the podium to talk about how he will be moving on from the Iowa Hawkeye program. Not the news we wanted to hear. Not surprising. We've been talking about this for at least a full football calendar year before this season, and maybe before that. It has been known, and hey, maybe we added to that. Maybe we added to the noise and the hype around LeVar Woods. I don't think he needed it. I think the players, the production, the special teams happenings in Iowa City were doing plenty to promote him and what they have going on over there in that room, in that third phase of the game. But we have certainly been hyping up LeVar Woods for years on this podcast. One of our favorites, as well as a relevant figure in this discussion, Seth Wallace. guys who we have long said are eventual head coaches, and not just, oh, you get a chance to be a head coach, but like probably legitimate head coaches that will continue. They are the names, right, that will climb the ranks. Two guys that have potential to be, if I'm not saying they're going to ever make it to this level, there's a lot of luck and desire and chance that happen in these situations, these paths that coaches take. But if there were two guys on the staff right now who you could pick out and say they could be in the conversation, all these guys bouncing around the coaching carousel, those are LaVar and Seth. Those are two guys who could be in that discussion of big time jobs down the line. And Coach Woods is taking his next step to making that a reality. I posted my reaction on Twitter, a couple 2-minute video, and I'm happy for Coach. Right? He was a part of the staff when we got there. In fact, I'm going to pull up his entire history as a coach at Iowa here. He was part of the staff when we got there in 2013, the summer of 2013, and gradually became a larger and larger part of Kevin and Drake and I's life over the time that we were there. LaVar obviously played in the NFL from 2001 until 2007 as a linebacker and mainly a special teams guy. Kind of made his dough, had his claim, staked his claim as a special teams guy in the league. Never started at linebacker, I don't think. He might have gotten a couple starts or some playing time, but he was running down on kickoff. He was playing punt return. Came back to Iowa a year later after his NFL career was over in 2008 and took a, whatever this means, administrative assistant job for 2008, 9, 10, and 11. And then 2012, the bad year, the worst year in Iowa football of any recent memory, really. 4-8 year. He took over as the outside linebackers and special teams coach. Obviously, points to a little bit of turnover on the staff that year. And then we got it together in 13. We went 8-4. We entered that middle of the 2010s era that is most familiar on this show because it's when we were there for those 5 years. And for the 12, 13, and 14 seasons, LaVar was your outside linebackers coach. Coaching the Wills, the Sams. And he was helping out with special teams, right? He was doing special teams work. But then in 2015, he took over as the special teams guy. He was leading, and that was in conjunction with with Coach Seth Wallace. And everybody kind of helps with the special teams. But he took over. He was in charge of our position group at that point. He was not in the room. He was still in the tight ends room, right? He was hanging out with Kittle and Krieger Coble and Doozy and all of them during film and during practice. But for the, when we needed to coach, when we're having checkout meetings, when we're talking to somebody in season, coaches are bringing players over to their house, trying to create chemistry. You're reporting back to them. They're getting your grade report. Like, he was that guy starting in 2015. And we've talked about the previous guy a couple times in not the best light. LaVar was such a breath of fresh air. Obviously, this whole conversation ends up culminating in the fact that in 2018, the year after we left, he took over as the full-time Iowa special teams coordinator, and that was it. He was in the specialist room working with the kicker, punter, long snappers. His sole goal was, hey, you don't have another position group. You've got the specialists, which is a group that kind of work themselves. They figure it out. And you've got the teams. Kickoff, punt return, kick. Kickoff, return, punt, return. PAT field goal. Hand steam. Didn't you have to use the hand steam a lot? And a lot of those schemes, a lot of those players over the last almost decade can attribute some of that success to Coach LeVar Woods. A lot of individual talent there. But you're talking about guys like Keith Duncan, Miguel Racinos, Keith Shudak, Drew Stevens, Luke Elkin, Torrey Taylor. I mean, Coach Woods went and found Torrey Taylor. He got on the plane, took a trip to Australia to meet face-to-face and show Torrey that, hey, we care, we want you. He had to identify that talent. I think there was some help with the communication there of like, the Pro Kick Australia people were like, hey, this is our guy. But then Coach has to take that chance and go over there and be like, hey, we want you to be an Iowa Hawkeye. We know you know nothing about Iowa, really nothing about the United States. You've never played American football. I'll never forget when Torrey, I think just cold game against Wisconsin, maybe it was 2020, first year. He dropped that punt and was laying on the ground, and he just decided to kick it off the ground, and it went like 30 yards downfield. Like what ended up being a decent little play, but you can't do that. He's like, I didn't know. I don't know the rules. Torrey's just, well, really the shining example of what Coach Woods was able to do recruiting-wise. Special teams recruiting is an interesting thing. A lot of the returner stuff is going to, you're never recruiting a returner really out of high school. You're recruiting DBs, you're recruiting wide receivers, and then you're pulling from that talent pool once they're in Iowa City. But that's an identification process as well. That is a relationship building process with your returner, with Caden Weechin, with Cooper DeJean. By the way, Jesus, I can't talk. It's been a day. It's been a weekend. Jax DeJean, Cooper's younger brother, committed to the Hawkeyes. Not going to go too far into that. I think he's a 4-star recruit. He's a much bigger frame than Cooper was. He's a different athlete than Cooper was. It's one of those things where it's like the Epinesa thing. You can't expect the sibling to come in and be everything that the first guy was. There's an unfair expectation. But he's a talented, sought-after recruit, had a lot of offers, decides he wanted to be a Hawkeye. Speaking of Cooper, take a brief intermission to recognize the fact that where'd my there it is. The Hawkeyes have 5 Pro Bowlers. Most of any team outside of Georgia was 6. So tied for second place. Jack Campbell, Cooper DeJean, George Kittle, Tyler Linderbaum, Tristan Wirfs. 4 out of 5 are Iowa products, by the way, Iowa high school football. And George Kittle, I think, at one point lived in Iowa and then moved down to Oklahoma sometime around like middle school or high school. Jack Campbell, Cooper DeJean, George Kittle, Tyler Linderbaum, and Tristan Wirfs. 5 Pro Bowlers. I don't know what number Pro Bowl this is for George. I know Wirfs has made a couple. I think Linderbaum has made 1 or 2. I believe this is Campbell and DeJean's first time. I could be wrong, though. Just some elite dudes. Awesome to see. Some wild baity rumors about Cooper DeJean out there right now. Got some dudes out there. George Kittle scored a touchdown last night on Monday Night Football. Wirfs scored a touchdown a couple weeks ago. A lot of fun stuff happening from the Hawkeyes. And it's good to be an Iowa Hawkeye. Jax DeJean decides he wants to be an Iowa Hawkeye. And maybe, who knows, maybe one day he could be a Pro Bowler. I hesitate to go really deep into recruiting, talking recruits, talking people who commit, because, I mean, hell. It used to be the rule was like, hey, until they've signed the dotted line, until you see them out there in the black and gold, don't talk about them. Now, it's like, until they're like you could be a established star of the team, and that might make it more likely that they're not on that team the following season. screwed up world of college football right now. But congrats to those 5 guys. There was probably a few others, I would bet, if you went down the list, that are deserving. LeVar Woods, a couple years ago, was really when you start to see, hey, list of best assistants come out. LeVar Woods, special teams, Iowa. Tops, the big game boomers and the fan accounts. Top special teams. Iowa special teams up until this season. I don't know what the aggregate score of our special teams was. I do think if you follow the K Ford ratings, I think we eventually got back up into like 10th in the country for special teams overall rating, which is pretty damn good considering where we were. Punting was just not where we have been, and Reese-Dakin was average this year. Drew Stevens probably average by his standards, with what some of what he's done already in a Hawkeye uniform. Good kicker. He was probably a little bit above average. Made some really big kicks this year. Missed some really big kicks. 100% guarantee that he expected better of himself this year as far as accuracy, make percentage. And that standard has been set. That's the tough thing, is that standard has been set, not just by the players, but again, by Coach Woods. You start to see those lists comes out, and every year you're like, well, shit. Look at those names and look where they end up. Look what happens to them, right? It's a situation where if you're good, you get grabbed up, which is one of the sort of the hallmarks of a Coach Ferentz staff. We were just talking about this the other day. Is kind of odd that, you look at the Coach Hayden Fry staff, which is one of the more legendary coaching trees that you can find out there. You look at that like picture from, I don't know, 1981, whenever Coach Ferentz became a assistant coach. And you got all those guys, Stoops, and all those guys on there that eventually go on to be head coaches. Coach Ferentz, with such longevity, really doesn't have a coaching tree like that, a head coaching tree. And really, it's because you got guys like LaVar who have been on the staff since 2008. Phil Parker's been on the staff for over 2 decades. You got a couple guys who have moved on to the NFL. But he's retained a lot of people. Seth Wallace, he's been there for over a decade, 12 years. I think he came in the same year we did. They just stay around. Iowa City, you guys listening to this podcast, the Iowa fan base, you guys have provided an environment, an ecosystem, a college town, a fan base that's worth staying for because it's different. And I have no doubt that, Coach Woods, all of these thoughts ran through his head when he was making this decision, because, and it's not just football. Look at the support for women's basketball. The quickly growing support for men's basketball with Coach McCollum. If you win and it's exciting, or even when it's not exciting, let's be honest, Iowa football, Iowa offense, we had a couple, the dark years, we talk about them. This is a loyal fan base. One of those in the Midwest that just come back and support the team no matter what. They sell out games. They have a huge social media following. Loyal. The athletic department has been loyal. Say what you want about Barta and now Beth Getz, and maybe to a fault with Barta there for a while, the drive for 325, the sticking with Brian too long, not long enough in some people's opinions, Drake. If you do well and you do things the right way and you represent the black and gold in a way that you should, and that's respectable, you get to stick around, which I like. And I don't know how in today's world you see these coaches, you just today, as I'm kind of prepping mentally for this podcast, you start to see the rumors, Michigan, we talked about the Michigan scandal, and Dillingham gets snapped back up, re-extended at Arizona State. DeBoer gets a win. DeBoer against Oklahoma in the first round of the playoff. He's going to stay at Alabama. Those were the two guys that were supposedly the head candidates for the Michigan job, a top 3, top 5 job in the country. Certainly the best job available right now. And I don't even know where I was going with that. Those guys go back to and now they're looking for a coach. It just every year there's places that somebody can land. And it's enticing. And there's a lot of money in college football. Oh, I know it. I was talking Jeff Brom. Louisville guy, played for him. Alma mater. That's where I was going with this. It could seem like the perfect fit. And yet still, these universities come with contracts, money, amenities, advantages that are just too good to pass up. And so it's weird that it's almost weird. It's been great for us that we've been able to keep some of these guys, Seth Wallace, LeVar Woods, Coach Phil Parker, who I think dies a Hawkeye. At this point, I mean, why would he go somewhere at this point? It's weird that the move finally gets made, but it makes sense. Fitz has been around the program. I know people are like, we shouldn't have let Fitz so close to the program. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? I think Fitz is a respectable guy, gets the job at Michigan State, a program that's worth building and worth going to if the right people are there. You have the right support. Kevin just mentioned in an episode, maybe 2 back, that they just got a $400 influx, or $400 million, 400 wouldn't do much, $400 million influx of cash from some random donor to the athletic department. That's a place you can win. That's a place that is enticing. And that brings us to the decision that was made a couple of years ago where Coach Seth Wallace, who at the time, I believe, was already the assistant D coordinator or the associate defensive coordinator next to Phil, was given the associate head coach title. And I'll be honest with y'all. I don't know the extent. There was nothing like this had happened when we were there. I don't know the extent of responsibility increase when you get that associate head coach title. Now, obviously, Coach Ferentz goes and self-suspends himself for a opener in 2024, and Seth Wallace assumes head coaching duties that day. But I'll be real honest, other than doing the media, the press conference and the interview in the middle of the game for 30 seconds with the TV crew and giving the speech before they go out on the field, I don't know what legitimately, for that one day, it doesn't change a whole lot of what a head coach is responsible. We talk about all the time. Game day is probably the least important day for a head coach. They're responsible for structuring the entire organization, off-season, recruiting, vision, culture. All of that sort of just gets seen on game day. So I don't know what extended responsibilities that gave Coach Wallace, but what it did do was give him a pay raise. And what it did do is it designated, in my mind, and I would love to hear from his point of view or even Coach Ferentz' point of view, it kind of signifies that, hey, you're the guy on this staff that's heir to the throne should KF move on from the head coaching spot. And there can only be one. Unfortunately for us, there can only be one. It's a good problem to have because having Seth Wallace churn out absolute elite linebacker rooms for what seems like a decade now, going back to Josie Jewell in our time, all the way through Jack Campbell, and now what looks to be Cam Buffington up next, and a few others, Preston Reese, Weisskopf, and LeVar Woods churning out Cooper DeJean, Caden Weechin, a couple kickers, Torrey Taylor. It's hard to keep that. And you knew it was coming to a head. Coach deserves it. I'm happy for him. He's going to get a little bump to the wallet. Always great. He came on our show not last summer, but the summer before that, and in so many words said, I don't know what my future of coaching looks like. I just try to think about the next day. And to some extent, I do think that's true. But if you get in this game and you're in it long enough, I think you have a general idea. And coach just wasn't going to tell us that, which is fine. He said in the press conference that he realized he wanted to be a head coach someday and that this was a step towards that. I think he's probably known that for a while and was just looking for the right time after the decision was made to assign Coach Wallace the associate head job to maybe go and get that title somewhere else for him as sort of the last stamp on the resume before he makes that jump to the head man somewhere. I believe that Michigan State is getting a guy who is an eventual Big Ten head coach. And I think Coach Seth Wallace is also an eventual Big Ten head coach. At least I hope they're in the Big Ten. I hope that for years to come, if we could look into the future and it's 2033, I don't know what programs it's going to be. I hope one of them's at the head of the Hawkeyes and they're doing well, they're succeeding. I hope head coach Seth Wallace is taking on head coach LeVar Woods for a Big Ten clash on a Saturday somewhere, and I believe that to be true. And for that to happen, they have to take routes to get there. This is part of Coach Woods' route. He's taken over a room in East Lansing that's already pretty damn good. I don't know specifically. I say that generally as far as the last decade goes. I, as a former special teams guy, know that they've had some really great specialists in the Spartan uniform. And if he's able to do what he's been able to do in Iowa City up there for Michigan State, it kind of proves, hey, this guy, it's not just, I think at this point he's kind of proven it already, but it's not just a decade of luck or, being a part of a great program in Iowa. It's partially him that's traveling well, and that's going to elevate him to a head job. I don't think the Spartans, unless Michigan State special teams is just trash over the next few years, which I don't expect it to be, I don't think the Spartans will have Coach Woods long either. I think he's gone before 2030. And I think he makes that head coaching leap in a few years. It'll be exciting when he does. And maybe, should he have interest in the Iowa job someday when Coach Ferentz retires, who knows when that's going to be, could be about that same time frame. Maybe this is the one step, hey, now I can go get that associate head coach title on my resume, and that evens me up with Coach Wallace, where now Iowa has a decision to make when KF makes that decision. I don't know. As we said in one of the last few episodes, it is going to be a highly sought-after job in Iowa City. Coach, I love you. I don't love that Fitz stole you and took Joel Welsh, one of our former strength coaches as well, to be his head strength conditioning coach. It's the Michigan State Hawkeyes up there. You are an obviously very, very important figure in my life, to becoming a man, a father. Coach Woods was somebody who was already leading the way in those fashions when I was under his tutelage in Iowa City. And him, along with the rest of that staff, forever indebted to them for paving the way and creating men, not just good football players. Kevin, I'm sure, has a similar sentiment. We'll get his thoughts on hopefully the next episode when we preview this bowl game. I want LaVar to succeed at the highest level, except when we play them either in the East Lansing or in Iowa City and we're playing the Spartans. I want his guys to have a shitty day that day. And so this leaves a gaping hole in Iowa City. Who's the next Iowa special teams coach? Who could we be eyeing? I don't have a lot of commentary on that. I know a lot of people have speculated. Des King has been back around the program the last couple years, on the sideline a lot, helping out with the DBs. Obviously, Desmond King was a pretty electric returner in his own right. Very, very naturally skilled. When it came to intuition and just general feel, football IQ, awesome returner. Always made a guy miss. Not elite speed like Weechin has or some of our other guys have had. I missed Amir Smith-Marset in there, by the way. Unbelievable returner. Charlie Jones, while he was here, I mean, just dogs. And, but, you know, Des just officially retired from the NFL. He doesn't have any coaching experience, and, you know, most of his time and effort has been spent defensively. I don't know if he's the guy we just jump to right away. And that would be if he had any interest at all. There's a lot of guys that are in pipelines all over the place that know what they're doing as far as special teams goes. And I don't know if they have somebody on the staff that's been in, sort of in that administrative assistant role under Coach Woods that can step in and use that same playbook. Funny enough, I was rummaging through some stuff the other day looking for something. I've got the Iowa punt playbook right here. I guarantee it's the same one that they have in the building right now for those guys. I could go and coach the punt team. I could go. And what's funny is, and I appreciate this. Obviously, I'm a much too public figure for a former long snapper. I mean, that's the entire allure to sort of me rubbing people the wrong way. It's just like, why is this guy talking so much? Why? You're a long snapper. You're not supposed to. This is not supposed to be how these guys act. A lot of people, again, love you. I think, tagging me on Twitter, DMing me, hey, do you have any interest? Have they reached out to you? I think Tyler Kluver should take the job. A couple people saying, tagging the walk-ons account. I think Kluver or Kevin should apply. And people quite seriously like having these opinions about us, potentially being the next guy. Again, as much as I would be very comfortable and feel very confident in my skills coaching the specialists, kickers, punters, long snappers, process, how to practice, even a lot of technique, not just for the snapping, but for the kicking and punting that I've learned over the years. Excuse me. There's a lot of just time under tension there that I don't have. In fact, zero time in the coaching world as far as special teams goes. Running the specific special teams drills, knowing front to back all of the schemes for kickoff return, kickoff coverage. I could learn them, but they're not looking for somebody to come in and learn them and then be able to coach it. They need someone to step in and do it. Kevin, same way, just zero coaching experience. So I don't think this is a situation where you just hire a former player. But we'll see. Flattered from Hawkeye Nation. Appreciate y'all. I don't know who they go to. Segue time. I know who you could go to for your next meal around this holiday season. Gray's Gourmet To Go is the sponsor of today's show outside of FanDuel. Pete and Kim going to stay with us in the offseason. We're cooking up a nice deal for them to stay as one of our sponsors year round. I hope that means that we were able to provide one hell of a benefit to them this season with people going and eating at their restaurant, ordering their food online, doing their Thanksgiving special. And it seems like everyone that we've sent there has responded to us or sent, every once in a while I'll get a DM, I'll get an email to the Washup Hawkins account or my personal account like, hey, finally tried Gray's. Wow. Now we see why you guys talk about it the way you do. And we're glad that people are able to, food is something that brings people together. Nobody does it better than Pete and Kim in Iowa City with Gray's. And why not go enjoy a restaurant that not only pumps out great food, but does it in support of the black and gold more than anybody else. And quite literally, it is the fuel that the Hawkeyes run on. I think they're getting Gray's like at least once or twice a week. So you could be like the Hawks. There will be plenty more discussion on LaVar leaving with Kevin in future episodes as we head into 2026. And I'm sure as Iowa, in the press conference, KF said they're not urgently looking for someone. LaVar is coaching through the bowl game. He's still in Iowa City. Very Iowa thing to do. Not a lot of guys, I think, do that anymore. They're going to hire somebody in the new year. So we'll see. And we'll have plenty of – there'll be at least one more episode discussing that. And there's big shoes to fill because special teams is something that Coach Ferentz has made a priority. It's a way that Iowa has won football games, and it is a core identity piece to the Iowa Hawkeye program. So big shoes to fill. If they want me to do it, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. I'll take less than LaVar took, money-wise. They can pay somebody else. They can pay players. Your Iowa Hawkeyes offensive line is the best offensive line in the country. And we're just going to roll the back 10, 15, 20 minutes with this. Iowa football wins the Joe Moore Award for the best line in college football. Left to right, Trevor Lauk, Bo Stevens, Logan Jones, Cade Pieper, and Jennings Dunker are the best 5 in the country. If I was better at Twitter, I would have the promo graphic up. Very, very cool video. The award, I'll just share the screen. I really, really highly recommend going to the Hawkeye Football Twitter account and watching some of the footage that they got. This thing comes and it's shipped to Iowa City, in this case, because Iowa won, in like multiple pieces. They put it together in like the storage room of the weight room and then surprised Iowa here, surprised the boys inside the weight room with the award after practice yesterday. It's a really fucking cool thing, man. And as you can see here, Lojo was fired the hell up, dude. They were so, and they should be, proud, excited. Those boys right there. Those boys right there. Lojo, Stevens, Pieper, Lauk, Dunker. That's a mean 5. Picks right here. Barnett. Conversations need to be had about him. Maybe some apologies. Maybe from this podcast. Look at this photo. Look at that shot. Come on. Best 5 in the country. And see if I can find my I'll share this other screen. The grades for these boys are just insane. And I know we shit on PFF a lot, but when everybody is consensus, it's, I feel like we could use this. And I'd love to know, actually, if you went internally to Iowa and was like, hey, grade these guys out. How close are these grades? And funny enough, you wouldn't think that Jennings Dunker would be your lowest grade. Going into the season, Dunk was the one with all the hype, right? And he still balled out, had a great grade. But PFF's grades for these guys, relative to the country, Trevor Lauk, an 86.7 at left tackle, the third highest graded left tackle in the country, will return and be a part of your 26 team, along with Cade Pieper, your right guard, an 84.2 grade, the best, highest, number one graded right guard in the country. Logan Jones, the Remington Award winner, best center in the country, also rated number one for PFF. Where did my... It just stopped sharing my screen. Well, that's fun. And I'll just keep going, but that's really annoying. Bo Stevens. The unfortunate part about this is that we lose three of them. Bo Stevens, number one graded left guard. We had both with the highest graded left guard, center, right guard in the country. 83.1 for Lojo. Bo Stevens, 89, the highest graded on the five. And supposedly, listening to Doc and Lysico talk last week, his potential at the next level in the NFL, which him, Logan Jones, and Dunker are all about to get drafted in the upcoming draft in the spring. Supposedly, Stevens is your highest ceiling guy, who he didn't get any of the hype coming into this year. It was all Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker. Dunk's going to go make money. Lojo's going to make money. You might have 3 NFL starters next year right there. I don't know. I think Jennings kicks inside is the talk there. Logan's probably going to play center still, so you got two guards and a center, potentially all seeing significant time in the 2026 NFL season. And then Pieper and Lauk, who, if you listen to the iCult show on this network with me and David, you've been hearing those two names for over a year now, that he was high on those guys, and they came out and performed. Pieper will be back. Lauk will be back. And those two are going to have to headline a new look Iowa Hawkeye offensive line in 2026. They have big shoes to fill. And I think the best part about this is it was but 3 years ago that Drake and I believe, I was trying to find it. I think it was a Patreon exclusive Dickhead Tuesday, but it might have been a regular episode. We spent an entire hour breaking down why our offensive line was in the shitter. Our offensive line production was absolutely tanked. And there was a lot of reasons for that. And a lot of the credit probably for these guys, I'm really hoping we can get those 3 on that are going to move on to the next level. A lot of the credit goes to last year's class, another veteran class where we lost. Now the names are going to escape me. Mason Richmond, Connor Colby, and Ellsbury. A lot of those guys just thrown in too early. Coach Ferentz talked about it, I think last week in the press conference, or maybe in one of those final couple game week press conferences, where you can't microwave an entire offensive line to be ready. And they knew it. Back in 22 and 23, they knew it. Guys were in there too soon. And for a couple of years there, we were questioning, is it Barnett? Does this guy not have it? Does he not know what he's doing? Did we lose our edge there? There's a lot of Coach Doyle talk, which was, fun speculation. Like, hey, did Coach Doyle leave and all of a sudden our line play just sucks? Was he the key? And these guys just nose to the grindstone, go to work. And 2025, they come out, and by a panel of, I think, the Taylor guy who runs the award and presented it to the boys, I think he said there was 280 voters. That's pretty legit. 280 different people, and our line comes out on top. They grind their way back to the top of the country for offensive line production. A huge part in what Caleb Johnson did for the Hawkeyes last year. Kamari Moulton and obviously had another big year for the Hawks in 25. Everybody, us included, just talking shit on him for years, 2-3 years there. Hey, what happened? And I didn't want to say it at the time. It's not an excuse because in the end, you have to go out there. You need 5 guys to go play, and the other team isn't going to give you a half-ass effort. They're not going to go 80% because, oh, you had a couple guys leave early and somebody transferred and somebody retired and you missed on a couple. Like, that's just not how it works. Too bad. So sad. But the staff, Barnett, KF, Tyler Barnes, and these guys specifically, the ones that they recruited, said fuck the noise, went to work, and they're back on top. Iowa solidifies an extended tenure in the elite offensive line producing programs of the country. Very, very cool to see. Congrats to the boys. Again, similar to LeVar Woods, we've got some holes to fill there. We've got 3 NFL draft picks that are leaving this offensive line. You pull up that depth chart. Redshirt sophomore Trevor Lauk, redshirt sophomore Cade Pieper. So they're both in their 3rd year. Without really going to the roster on the team website, that would indicate that they're both in their 3rd year. So they both have 2 left if they want it. I'm guessing with them both being as highly rated as they were this season, they're going to have some opportunity to leave early next year. I'm guessing that they're both getting some pretty hefty offers to transfer elsewhere right now. Unfortunately, we probably are paying Pieper and Lauk a shitload of money to stay in Iowa City. Shout out to I know they're not currently a sponsor, but shout out to them. Iowa Swarm is going to help retain those guys so that they don't sign elsewhere. We're going to have to re-sign. We're going to have to give them a re-signing fucking graphic on Twitter. Cade Pieper is re-signed with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Jesus. What does the world come to? Those will be our 2 dudes. And if all goes well, that's 2 more draft. That'll be 5 draft picks in 2 years. I'm very excited to see how high those guys go. On the depth chart, behind Stevens, Jones, and Dunker, a redshirt sophomore behind Jennings Dunker at right tackle, Cannon Leonard. I'll be honest, I haven't even heard the name yet. Michael Mislinski is a redshirt senior, so he might be moving on. So somebody else is going to have to step in. Bryce George was a transfer. I know we talked about him. I think he came in from Ferris State. There was talk that he could have maybe taken a starting role this year. He was behind Pieper. I don't think he has another year, so he's gone. Leighton Jones is a name I know I've heard, redshirt sophomore, and Jack Dotzler was who was going to go. We were kind of figuring that left tackle spot out early in the season. We didn't even know that Lauk was going to be the guy. Does he or Lauk move over to the right side and take that other tackle spot? We're going to see. I'm sure they're getting a lot of info on that in bowl prep here. People are, like we said, bowl prep's important. People are starting to stand out. Young guys are starting to understand a little bit more, gain a little bit more confidence, go out there, put it on tape. It'll be interesting to see what that line looks like come spring. That'll be one of the main exciting storylines for the Hawkeyes entering 2026. Eli Stowers, I guess we'll finish with this. Eli Stowers, I believe a consensus, maybe unanimous, All-American, tight end from Vanderbilt. Last I saw, and I think it was legit, was considering or maybe already said he was going to forego the bowl opportunity for Vanderbilt against the Hawkeyes. And he is obviously as a consensus All-American. That's a pretty big loss for your offense. So that takes a hit. That's a hit for the Commodores. Let's bring up the FanDuel college football betting odds and see if that moved the line at all. Why is my font the size of a Gen X cell phone? The Iowa Hawkeyes. Yeah, that line has moved. That was a 6.5 point line when it opened, when the bowl games came out. And it's down to 4.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook. The best sportsbook in the country. You can get the Iowa Hawkeyes on FanDuel for plus 4.5. An over-under of 47.5 for the bowl game. Pavia still playing, second in the Heisman voting. And if you want to take Iowa straight up on the money line, that's plus 158. I don't think it's a bad idea to sprinkle it, if I'm being honest. My voice is barely hanging on. I hope my daughter eventually fell asleep. If not, I'm going to be on back rub duty immediately after this podcast. And I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I did my best to not and ah through it without Kevin or Grant here. It's a lot easier to have a conversation than to talk to yourself or talk to an audience. This is the first time checking the chat because I didn't get any notifications for it. For some reason, the chat wasn't live. And I'm sure there's some comments that I missed in there. But there's some questions to answer now. And there's more questions to answer in college football than ever. Brad Heinrich's phone, Tyler Barnes' phone, the recruiting cycle, who stays, who goes, first year of the 105 roster limit, how one class fits in with the team, who goes, who stays, all this stuff. How much do you pay this guy? Who do we prioritize keeping? What positions do we need to go and get? All of this stuff is stuff that we're going to talk about here on the Washed Up Walk-Ons in 2026 as we continue to cover the Iowa Hawkeyes in the most entertaining, authentic, I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe our spot in the market, but we fill some sort of lane. And I'll be here doing this regardless of if Kevin has old lady's knees to fix and Grant can't be here. I appreciate everybody for joining. Just remembered we were going to do our top 5 Christmas stuff too. Sad. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to the Walk-On Army out there. And we will see you next Monday, the 29th, for a preview of the bowl game. You'll get Kevin's thoughts on some of the topics we hit on tonight. And then our next episode, that'll be our final episode 25. Our first episode of 2026 will be the bowl game recap. I believe that will be live Thursday night. We're not going to do it night of the game. We'll do Thursday night, the 1st. Kevin has some creative control on that date. And we'll kick off a new year of covering the Hawks. We appreciate everybody. Love you guys. Check out the Patreon, new tier system / perks coming in 26. Where Tyler, the tech guy, is going all in on being an actual podcaster for once. So fun stuff coming. Love you.